I'm making a speedroid deck profile. I've been playing around with this deck and it's really fun. And I just thought about making this deck because of how one of its boss monsters is Clearwing Synchro Dragon, which is a monster I absolutely love because most people don't realize how good it is. And I don't remember what it is that one of my friends said, but one of my friends told me I should also make the deck profile, so here I am. Overall, it's a fun deck to play, and I'm still learning it for overall, but it's still fun. Starting off, I play 2 copies of Speedroid Red-Eye Dice. Red-Eye Dice is a fun card in the fact that it's not once per turn at all, but when it's normal or special summon, you can target one Speedroid monster in your field other than Red-Eye Dice, and if you do, you can change its level from 1 to 6. So this card can get you anything from a level 2 to a level 7 Synchro monster. Then I play 3 copies of Speedroid Marble Machine. Marble Machine has the effect of, if it's normal summon, you can activate its effect, then add 1 speedrun monster from your deck to your hand. You cannot special summon monsters from your... You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for wind monsters, which is fine because every monster in this deck is wind. Except for one, but you're never special summoning, and if you are, that's a bad thing. And then I play 3 copies of Speedroid Taketomborg. Taketomborg is a free summon if you control a wind monster once per turn. And then you contribute it to special summon 1 Speedroid Tuner monster from your deck, but you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except wind monsters. Then I play 3 copies of Speedroid Ultra Hound. I like Ultra Hound at 3, whereas most people only like it at 2 or even 1, but I like it at 3 just because its effect is, when it's normal summon, you can send a Speedroid card from your deck to the graveyard. And during your main phase, other than the turn it is sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard, target 1 Speedroid monster that's in your graveyard, shuffle into the deck, and if you do, especially on a Speedroid Synchro from your extra deck that has the same level but a different name. Unfortunately, that gray effect in this version of Speedroid isn't really going to work very well unless you want to summon Speedroid Corkscrew. Or my bad, Corkscrew Shooter. Because I don't have rubber band playing at the moment. But once I get that, then I'll probably take one of the later cards out for it instead. Then I play 2 copies of Speedroid Card Turbo. Card Turbo is another free summon if you control a wind monster. But you cannot you can special for your hand, but you cannot activate monster effects for this turn unless they're wind, which is fine because again, every monster is wind. Except for one. But it also has the effect you can banish it from your graveyard and you can banish itself and another Speedroid from your grave to then have all monsters you currently control gain 800 attack. You can only use each of its effects once per turn. So it can give your monsters a decent little attack boost. Then I play the 1 copy of Speedroid Den Daiko Duke. Daiko Duke can be banished from your graveyard, special summon a Speedroid Tuner from your hand. And that's about it. And you can only use that effective Daiko Duke once per turn. And then I play the 1 copy of Terra Top. I would love it if this card was put back to 3, because then I'd be playing 3 of it. But if you control no monsters, you can special summon it from your hand. And then if it's normal or special summoned, you can special summon 1 Speedroid. You can just add 1 Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. So once it's summoned, it lets you search for another monster. So you play a Taketomborg, which you then tribute to summon Red-Eye Dice, which then gives you a generic synchro from 2 through 7. Then I play 2 copies of Speedroid Fukimodoshi Piper. I like this card just because it's the fact of if it's normal or special sound, you can excavate the top card of your deck equal to the number of other wind monsters you control. Add 1 excavated card to your hand, also place the rest to the bottom of the deck in any order. Then you can banish it from your graveyard, then target 1 level 3 or higher wind monster you control, reduce its level by 2. You can only use that effective Fukimodoshi Piper once per turn. I don't really use its grave effect as often as I do its on summon effect. Then I play the 1 copy of Speedroid Horse Stilts. When this card is normal summon, you can special summon a level 4 lower Speedroid from your hand. And then during your graveyard, you can banish from your grave to foolish a speedroid. So, well, you can only use that effect if it's not the same turn it was sent. So if this card sent to the graveyard, then the next turn you can banish this, send Daiko Duke to the grave, then use its effect to summon a speedroid tuner from your hand. Then to finish off the speedroids I play 2 copies of Double Yo-Yo. I like Double Yo-Yo just because when it's normal summoned, you can target one level 3 or lower speedroid in your graveyard and special summon it. I just like this card because it's easy access to level 7 synchros, like Clearwing Synchro or Clearwing Fast Dragon. But then to finish off the monsters of the deck, I play the 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring just because I feel like it's still one of the best hand traps. Being able to stop anything that would summon from deck, search from deck, or send from deck to grave. But Ash is the only non-win in this deck, so if you card turbo, then you cannot Ash for that turn, which is the only downside of Ash in this deck. I have thought about swapping Ash for Droll and Lockbird, just because Droll is a wind, so even if you card turbo, you can still Droll, but what are the odds you're going to Droll your opponent on your turn? Starting with the spells, I play the 1 copy of Speedlift. Speedlift just says if you control exactly 1 tuner and no other monsters, especially on 1 level 4 lower speedroid from your deck, neither player can activate cards or effects when that monster is special summoned. So that just means that once you summon that monster, your opponent can't just go activate summon limit or a bottomless trap hole or something like that. 1 copy of Monster Reborn just because it is an extender. Then I applied 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, just because if you get hand trapped, it could be very useful to look at your opponent's hand and then put a card from their hand into their deck. Take control of 1 monster your opponent controls until the end phase, or to drawing 2, which I typically do the draw 2. Then I play 3 copies of Speed Recovery. Speed Recovery is a monster reborn for speedroids that during the main phase, other than the turn it was sent there, you can remove from your graveyard to target 1 speedroid engrave and add it back to your hand. Then probably one of my favorite cards to play in this deck is 3 copies of Speedroid Wheel. Speedroid Wheel lets you discard a card and then roll a 6-sided die, and then you special summon from your hand and or your deck 1 or 2 Speedroid monsters whose total levels equal the result, but negate their effects. So typically, I just like this just because no matter what you roll, you get to summon anything, so the odds that you'll take the use its downside effect is if you do not special summon, then you lose life points equal to the result times 500. So if you roll 6 and you cannot summon 2 speedroids at levels equal 6, which is very easy, then you would take 3,000 damage, or you would lose 3,000 life points. But that never comes up because that is very, very difficult in this deck. So this card hardly ever does nothing. Then I play 3 copies of Speedroid Scratch. Speedroid Scratch just lets you discard a Speedroid card to then search for 1 Speedroid monster from your deck. You can only activate 1 per turn. That is 8 for the spells. Moving on to the traps, I play 1 copy of Speedroid Duplicate. I like this card, but I main 1 and then I slide the other 2. But its effect is you can banish a wind monster from your grave, target 1 card your opponent controls, usually Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer, and then return it to the hand. But during the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 level 2 or higher Speedroid monster you control, reduce its level by 1, and if you do, special summon this card as a normal monster. So I just like it because of how, if you only have a tuner, then you can use this, target that tuner, reduce the level by 1, special summon it, and now you can make a synchro play. But that's why I only play the 1, because you can only use that effect of duplicate once per turn. Then to finish off the traps, I play the 3 copies of Infinite Permanence, just because it's to go first deck. So this just lets you target opponent's monster, negates effects. But you can activate from your hand if you control no cards, or if it's set. Then, if it's activated while being set, then it negates all spells and traps in that same column. Which, if you do it on your turn, that includes the column it was activated in. But that is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. For the extra deck, I play 2 copies of a high speedroid rubber band shooter. When this card's link summon, you can immediately normal summon a speedroid monster. And then you can, once per turn, you can reveal or banish 1 speed synchro monster from your extra deck. To then take 2 speedroids that's levels equal it. Or I don't know why I did that. You can banish a synchro from your extra deck. To then take 2 speedroids from your deck that's levels equal 7. Your opponent chooses one at random. The one that your opponent chose gets summoned and the other gets sent to the graveyard. Then I play the 1 copy of High Speedroid Cork Shooter. Cork Shooter has the effect of when it's synchro summoned, you can activate one of its effect, which either searches for a speedroid spell or trap, or you can summon back all the materials used to synchro summon it if they're all in the graveyard. So you can use this. So one thing you can do is you can summon Terratop. Terratop searches target Tom board, special to Tom board. Tribute it, summon Red-Eye Dice. Dice changes. Woo. My bad. But Dice then changes the Terratop level 2. You can make this, bring back the Terratop and the Red-Eye Dice. Dice will make Terratop level 7. So then you can tune them for a Clear Wing, and then tune this with the Clear Wing, summon Crystal Clear Wing. Then I play the 1 copy of Speedroid Hagoita. Its effect is during either player's turn, you can contribute it to increase the levels of all monsters on the field by 1. Which is decent when your opponent goes to activate an effect that wasn't on summon, like control this. I'll get you later. But then it also has the effect of if it's in your graveyard and you control a Speedroid tuner, you can special summon from your graveyard, but you cannot special summon the rest of the turn except wind monsters. Which again is fine, because everything in this deck that you would want to special summon is wind. Then I play the 1 copy of High Speedroid Chambara. Chambara's in this deck just for a bit of extra power, just because it gets 2 attacks during each battle phase. And every time it battles, it gains 200 attack at the start of the battle phase. So it can attack once to be at 22, attack twice to be at 24, gets attacked again, it's at 26. Then it has the effect of if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Speedroid cards, add back to your hand. So it allows lots of damage real quick and has the effect to recycle your Speedroid cards, so it's just speed recovery. Never mind, not speed recovery because it's not a Speedroid. I thought that as soon as I said it. But like, you can return Den Deku Duke or your banished Speedroid monsters to hand. Then I play the 1 copy of Clear Wing Fast Dragon. Fast Dragon just has the quick effect of you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls that is summoned from the extra deck, negates attack effects, and reduces attack to 0. And then if it dies, it goes to the pendulum scale, where its pendulum effect is just you can send 1 face-up Speedroid tuner or 1 face-up non-tuner monster you control to the graveyard, as long as their total levels equal 7, to then summon it from your pendulum scale. Which is why I like it so much, because you just have to summon it once and it can keep being synchro summoned. But then I play one of my favorite synchros, and that is Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. I love this card just because no one ever really expects what it does. Which is, if your opponent activates the effect of a level 5 or higher monster, why I play High Speedroid Hagoita, then it can negate that monster's effect and destroy it. And if your opponent activates a monster effect that would target level 5 or higher monster, so it can be one on your side or theirs. An example being if Alistair's effect is used to increase a monster's attack by 1,000, then as long as that targeted fusion monster is level 5 or higher, Clear Wing Synchro Dragon can actually negate that effect. Then I play 2 copies of Crystal. And if Clear Wing Synchro Dragon destroys a monster with this effect, then it gains that monster's attack till the end of the turn, which which is the main thing that most people don't realize. Then I play 2 copies of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. If it battles a level 5 or higher monster, gains that monster's attack. Once per turn, component activates a monster effect, you can negate that effect and destroy it. Fairly simple. Then I play 2 copies of High Speedroid Kite Drake. Kite Drake has the effect when synchro summon, you can activate 1 or 2 effects, which is you can destroy all other cards on the field or negate the effects of all fate stop cards your opponent currently controls. And then if this card in your possession is sent to the grave by an opponent's card, which means either battle or card effect, then you can add 1 Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. So that's another thing I like because it's a Black Rose Dragon that can destroy or negate every other subcard your opponent controls. And then if it dies, it's a searcher. And then to finish off the Synchro deck, I play the 1 Crystal Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, which I realize that's still 1 more after this. My bad. But I like this card just because if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can activate this card's effect to make it unaffected by your opponent's monster effects till the end of the turn. Right? Yeah, it becomes unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects till the end of the turn. And if your opponent activates a spell or trap, you can activate this card's effect to negate that card and destroy it. So just a little spell trap negation that can be immune to monster effects. And then to finish out the extra deck, I play the 1 High Speedroid Clear Wing Rider. I like this card just because its effects during the main phase, you can roll a 6-sided die, return Speedroid, or shuffle wind monsters from your grave back to your deck equal to the number you rolled, and they can destroy an equal, or you can destroy that up to that many cards on your opponent's field. So if you roll 6, you can turn 6 winds back to the deck to destroy an equal number of cards. If your opponent has only 5, you can still destroy those 5. And then it gains, how much tech was it? And it gains 500 tech for each card destroyed. So this card can also be pretty decent at OTKing. And the only downside of it is that it does have a tag out effect where you can just tribute it to then summon 2 level 7 wind monster synchro monsters from your extra deck that have the same, or they have that be level 7 but different names. So you can summon Clear Wing and Fast Dragon and Crystal Clear Wing. But I don't really do that because usually Clear Wing Fast Dragon is one of the first things summoned. But that's it for my Speedroid deck profile. If you have any questions of what I can do to him, or any suggestions of what I can do to improve it, any ideas of decks you'd like to see me make, or decks you'd like to see face each other, feel free to comment those below. Thanks for watching.